Hello and welcome to Playing Favorites. I'm Paul.
I'm Justin.
Justin, it's time to return to Middle Earth.
Boy,
It's time to do The Hobbit?
is that what we're doing?
Yeah, we've
Okay.
decided to do The Hobbit. We're going back to the original, wait, I'm sorry. Did I use the word original? There's nothing original about this movie, sad to say. But we're going back to the trilogy of Hobbit movies, starting with the first one. And
I
we've
would
decided.
argue that there's some originality to this film, a little
Oh
bit.
yeah.
Yeah, a
I'm
little,
being a little,
bird shit out of people's heads and
catty.
stuff. That's pretty
You see,
original.
it's not the originality you want, though. It certainly is original. It certainly is unique. No one was asking for it, though.
But yeah,
Before we get into this wonderful, wacky world, we're Middle Earth again. Um, we're gonna just briefly tell you. I mean, Justin, what do we do here? What is this all about?
we've been doing a lot of different things lately. But generally we're playing favorites. We've been doing this for over 5 years now. We just kind of pick a topic. Though usually it's something that we like. It's like a thing that we are interested in. But lately we've been kind of dabbling into movies and video, like a little bit like a different ways of doing like video games. We've been doing like, tiers and things like that. But really the whole gist of it is just kind of talking about our favorite things and finding just different ways to talk about it. And
It's our excuse to talk,
it's just
man.
it's
It's our
just it's
excuse.
just silly conversations. And honestly, like we come up with some really profound ways of fixing bad movies sometimes,
Yes,
or just kind of like having revelations about how a bad movie is really good. Like sometimes that
yes.
happens too.
Let's go back to that Anaconda episode, man, because I would watch Anaconda in a heartbeat again before watching The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey.
Oh yeah,
All right,
yeah.
please give
You
me.
saw they're remaking it, right? Did you see that?
Oh, is that? I
Yeah.
thought you were. I thought that was just like stupid
I
rumor.
think that
Really?
maybe it's a rumor. Who knows? But anyways, that's not what we're here.
Am I going to be the? I never thought I'd be in this position where I'm going to defend
Defending
Anaconda
Anaconda.
as a movie, as a film. It should be preserved.
But
It should
that's what
not be
happens in
remade.
this space, in the playing
Mhm,
favorites space.
mhm.
You can make
Our
You
area.
become friends with bad movies.
Exactly. And that's what our show is really all about. It's us talking about stuff that's interesting. So, yeah, we tried that tier list. We're going to keep doing more of those. And we'll do whatever the hell we want to do
Sure.
because we just like talking about this stuff. So,
Yep.
we're going to. Um I'd like to set the scene for you, Justin.
I would like a 20-minute like prologue, like explaining everything that happened to
With
your race before we watch this. We talk about this. I want to know everything about you,
Mhm.
every little detail. I want to see the armor in your beards before we start the movie.
Very nice. That sounds like a dwarven challenge. I want to see the armor in your beard, like you're challenging me to a fight. Like I want to see the metal of your spine. No, look. We before we even go forward with this movie, we have to talk about the book itself, like the source material,
Mm-hmm.
because this movie and this trilogy is filmed and scripted much like the Lord of the Rings trilogy was,
Which we
right?
both love. Just to throw that
Yeah,
out there in case you haven't watched our
of
original
course.
reviews of
Yes.
those, go check those out. But we love the Lord of the Rings.
Mhm. Lord of the Rings. I mean, we talked about this. The Lord of the Rings is a like fantasy epic novel series. All right,
Mm-hmm.
really, it's one big book. So let's just call it what it is. But The Hobbit is really more what you would say like juvenile literature, like a
Yeah,
more of a children's book,
young adult,
young
maybe.
adult book, and it's whimsical. It's a very differently written book, right? The very first line of this, like, in a hole lived a hobbit. Like that's not the same way that Lord of the Rings opens, like there's a very different kind of genre. But the movies are portraying these events as like, okay, well, this is just the continuation of that story. But we're going to see, the beginning here with Martin Freeman playing Bilbo. But you can't do the same stuff that you did in that fun and like whimsical book in this kind of movie. Can you, Justin?
Uh, why are you asking me? I didn't do
Because
it.
no, you didn't, but they tried. That's what they did.
They
You're
tried.
like
You know what?
you're
I,
denying responsibility.
I know I don't
Like,
want to be. I don't put my name on it. But no, like can you? Yes, they did. It did happen. It has happened. We have experienced it. And I think
that's the central problem.
there are times that like I enjoyed it. Like when we rewatched this movie, just to kind of throw that out there. We just recently rewatched it. I really
Yeah.
hadn't seen these movies. Well, this is the first one. I hadn't seen it since it came in theaters. Really, I never really watched it again. I had no interest to watch it again. It was nothing like my experience with Lord of the Rings, where I really wanted the extended editions
No.
and all the extra stuff and all that stuff. And I actually have a huge affinity to the original cartoon. That's my first exposure into Lord of the Rings. So like I love The
Yep.
Hobbit. Like as far as like the cartoon version of it and like seeing the five armies happen, like when we get to later movies, obviously this has been broken up, which is another big problem we'll talk about, I'm sure. And I know this is really different than what we usually do. Usually you have a bunch of questions for me, but like after seeing the movie for the first time, just to kind of go my little backstory, I guess, on this film, like I had fun with it. Like back when theaters, it was you know grandiose and pretty, and like a lot of crazy cool shots for the time that it came out on. And plus, we were just hyped for Lord of
Yeah.
the Rings stuff. And
We
I'm like,
were. We
oh,
were.
cool, we're seeing more Gandalf, and it's more Middle Earth stuff. But rewatching it with you, my God, like I don't remember it being like that poorly paced and poorly like just implemented. The execution was just not there. It was just like there was something about like they try to almost like recreate every single page of the book and then almost like give it an extra 20 minutes every single page. It was like it almost like they fleshed it out way too much and gave way too
Yep.
much information for a story that could be, I could say, be done in two movies, not if you really needed to make it separate, because I get it. They want to, kind of pump out movies, but like, I don't know. Like,
I think you can make this in a 2-hour movie because the
it's tough.
focus of this movie is not all that big shit that gets
Sure. But,
the most of the airtime of this movie. Like the movie, like the story is about Bilbo, and the dwarves are like real background characters for the most part.
sure.
But this movie, we had the young guy who was like, "I'm not scared. I'll stick him right up his Jackson," or whatever. Like, we have to
Oh,
learn all these guys, and like all of
but,
them have like a thing. They all have like their one gimmick, and that's what makes it worse. It's almost as if they looked more similar, just like a group of people, like, maybe just different clothing, but kind of generally looking pretty similar in terms of like hair and makeup, like the way that the way that normally dwarves would look. Um, you know, then we would be as the audience, we'd be trying to like pick up on their differences, like, oh, I can kind of see like, oh, they're not just like all one thing. It gives the audience no credit. It makes us feel like we're idiots and we need a little
well, I
gimmick
made
to
the comment that
remember every single
they tried
dwarf.
to seven they tried to seven dwarves. They tried to
Yes,
make them
that
like
was good. That was
like
all you,
you
man.
know
You
I
were
mean
like, they
they
seven
had
dwarfified them.
you had like Sleepy Drew, like Grumpy and all that stuff,
Mhm.
and
Really?
like the ones that really
They were
matter,
so
like we said, are.
one-dimensional.
But we're diving right into negativity. Like it's not
Yeah,
normally how
I'm
we start
sorry,
these
and we're not
things,
even going in order.
but
Balin is totally Doc, by the way. Balin, totally Doc. He's got the white beard and everything. Like, he's Doc.
would Thorin be grumpy?
I put what's his name, warrior dude, as Grumpy.
Warrior, okay. The
Um,
bald guy.
if there was like Surly, like the Duffs, like the seven Duffs from The Simpsons, that's who Thorin is. He's Surly. He'd be like, "Oh, how are you, Surly?" He's like, "Get bent." That's basically Thorin's personality.
uh,
Thorin, I'd like to join your company. Get bent. I saved your life.
anyway,
Get bent.
but usually you have some questions for me to answer because we have
Yes,
to
I do.
try to
I
talk
do.
about our favorite things. Because I have to say there are moments in this movie I like. There are things that I enjoy. Like it's not
Oh
like
my gosh. But yeah, we really had a hard time with the 20-minute prologue
Yes.
that led into another 15-minute monologue because it gives like this, backstory about the dwarves, and then it suddenly turns into in a hole lived a hobbit,
Hmm.
and we just keep going. It's like, and if
Well,
you
yeah.
were somebody watch it, like reading Bilbo's writing, you'd be like, "Whoa, Bilbo, what the hell was that? Like, what kind of?" You're like talking this like very intense history of the tragedy of this race of people, and then it's like, in a hole lived a hobbit, and hobbits are nice people. They love mushrooms and eating and smoking pipes. It's like
And
tone change.
random cameo from Elijah Wood. But
It's just cramming everything in the kitchen sink. That's what I felt like. They were just
yeah.
throwing everything, like nostalgia, fan service,
Yeah.
everything
Well, they had
at
every
the wall.
actor that they could
And
potentially put in the into the movie. But anyways,
right? Like, and later on, we haven't even mentioned this, but Legolas is a part of this we're gonna have to talk about.
oh yeah, he does show up in the next one, doesn't he?
Yes, he plays a kind of a he plays a role, I'll say, in the second and third movie. An important role?
Debatable, right?
You be the judge. All right, but let's get into some questions here.
Okay.
So really, I want to ask you. I'm gonna kind of like go at this a little bit differently because usually I will focus on like the positives of like
I
set
like to have some
design.
positivity, but I
We
get it.
will.
It's
We'll
hard.
get there. We'll get there. But I want to ask, like, the plot of this movie. What is the like the central story of this movie? Like, if you had to tell me in like one sentence,
It takes
what
forever for it
happened?
to get there, but like it does
Yeah.
a horrible job at like preparing you on the quest. And we made a comment about that where it's
Mhm.
like you don't really seem to care about their peril, which I'm sure we'll get into because there's plenty of peril in this movie.
A lot of peril. Sure, a lot of
But
peril.
like you don't really know the meaning for the quest. Like it's just like
Mhm.
he just Bilbo just kind of just like I guess like that's the thing that bugs me. It's like they don't really explain his reason for going. He's so adamantly against going, but then just has a change of heart suddenly out of nowhere and just joins the dwarves. And like I don't think the explanation of but the plot is to go take back the mountain from the dragon that stole Thorin's family's mountain and try to find and he's supposed to burgle his way even though he's not a burglar. He's supposed to be the one that's supposed to help because Gandalf has a feeling. Like that's really the story of it is to try to get to this mountain and then on the way things just slow them down. That's the point of this movie. Is just things
Yeah.
are slowing them down. And then they have like backstory. There's like side stories that kind of like flesh it out. But like the gist of it is trying to get from point A, which is the hole in the ground, to
Mhm.
mountain. But
And
it's
back. And
in
back.
back and but it's a very long process to get a quarter of the way.
And we know that this is a big adventure. I mean, for Bilbo, it is his book. It's not Elijah. I'm sorry, I called him Elijah Wood. It's not Frodo's adventure. Frodo's adventure is very different. It's much more serious. It's much more, the fate of the world is really at stake, and this terrible thing is in their possession. Whereas Bilbo's is about like going out and seeking his fortune. It's like an adventure story. It's meant to be like something for a young adult, a preteen kid to like read and just be like, oh, that would be so cool. Stone giants and the scene with the trolls. Like they're just episodes. Like every night you read in like the next like what's Bilbo up to next. You
So,
know,
so you saying it
and,
like that
and that's
made me realize something really quick.
what what's up.
So that was the thing where I was like kind of stuck on. It's like they try to make it like you get this prologue of how serious him losing the mountain is, right? We talked about how maybe they should have like talked about that later, like or brought that up later,
Yeah,
right?
littered it through the story,
Like
like
if this was like
flashbacks,
Bilbo
everything.
like going on his first like where you didn't know any of that, right? You didn't go into the movie like learn because if you think about the cartoon, the book. I mean, maybe they talk about a little bit of the book. You know the book better than I do, but like my understanding is like the purpose of enjoying The Hobbit based on my experience with the book, wasn't this whole like trying to save the mountain, stop the dragon. It's just like Bilbo goes on an adventure, and you want to see what happens, and it's fun, it's whimsical, and then it gets a little
Well,
bit more serious as it goes on. Like it becomes more serious
yeah.
versus it being like, here's this seriously bad thing. He loses his father, the Defiler kills his dad, and he does this big battle, and like da 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 da. And it's like you're almost like getting pulled two different directions. Like, okay, am I supposed to have fun with Bilbo, or am I
Mhm.
worried about this like really serious Defiler dude that killed Thorin's dad? Like, who is? It's so disjointed. But that's just the gist of it. I wish they just like kind of held
Yeah.
off on the seriousness till maybe later in the middle movie, or maybe later in the trilogy potentially too.
If they're gonna make these movies to be like the Lord of the Rings movies, that's why I feel like they felt the need to add the Azog angle and all this lore, like all this background,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that Peter Jackson and Fran and Philippa as writing partners there, like I know that they want to pay, due diligence to the source material. And sometimes it's to a detriment, really,
Mm-hmm.
because this is all like information gleaned, like, yes, like this is what's happening. And in other writings, he explains further, what, like how Erebor got to that, and explains all about the town of Dale even more. But the point of that, like, you're right. It isn't. It has nothing really to do with the dwarves retaking Erebor and restoring and Thorin's quest and all this. It
It
is
has more meaning
like
later, like later on,
it
right?
does. It does. It does. But like the point of honestly, the biggest like obstacle most of the time for Bilbo in the book is the other dwarves. Is the dwarves, not other dwarves, just the dwarves,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't agree on things. They constantly like they butt heads. Like when they're in the forest in Mirkwood trying to get through the path, and they have to stay on the path, and the spiders are attacking or you know picking them off one by one.
They don't listen to any advice whatsoever. They just do their own thing.
No.
Like,
And Bilbo single-handedly rescues them.
mm-hmm.
That scene was so like I remember reading it myself and reading it to my son, like as I'm reading it, like just how like exciting of a scene it is and how you're really rooting for Bilbo because he's gotten the courage to save his friends, like but
Yeah,
in this movie, do you see any like this is part of it. It's like I was going to talk about the plot and the characters, like the most static character who doesn't really change is Bilbo. Bilbo doesn't really nothing really
he does a cool thing at the end, but yeah, which shouldn't have happened to
but
begin
what
with.
is
But
really like he does a cool thing is not the same as like
sure,
he's changed. And the same thing with Thorin. He like thinks that Bilbo is this, useless person. Whereas in the book and in the cartoon, I'm sure they're like more indifferent to him. Like, okay, Gandalf, like you wanted this guy, fine. He signed the contract. He's got to pull his weight. But and Bilbo does. It's not. I don't know. They focused on the weirdest things
yeah,
to
no,
make this. Um, but it's like they wanted to show the spectacle of this movie and like what's going on and all the lore that's happening in the background, but it's hard to do that. It's not really the vehicle for it.
it's hard to do because you're trying to progress a character for one movie, but yet the
Mhm.
story you're trying to his whole point of Bilbo's how much he progresses to the end of the Hobbit, like the very end. They almost show that progression too soon, a little bit too, like with the whole thing with the cool thing he does at the end, like where he like saves Thorin and he.
What the hell was that?
I know, like I
Uh,
mean that just seems so out of
at that
place.
point in the story too.
But like I
Like,
don't think they gave Bilbo, at least in this film, like which from what my memory is like this is the better one out of all the three we're going to watch here. But and I know you've agreed, you've at least confirmed that statement. But like I remember, like oh well, this
okay.
is cool. Like I remember getting to the end, not knowing the ending, like of the trilogy, like getting to the end of this film initially, like just as a standalone film. Like oh, all right, that was kind of fun. I can see where this is going. I can't wait to see the dragon. This is going to be really cool trilogy, and it's going to all pay off in the end. It doesn't. But like at the end of the film, I'm like, all right, I can see the changes they did. I could see where it could maybe work for like fleshing out the film, and they're building up a necromancer, and I kind of dug the lore in the moment, in like the
Yeah.
first moment,
Yeah.
but
The
it
White
doesn't.
Council, they do all that,
But
more
I
of that.
don't think knowing the end. I mean, I know we're kind of reviewing this in a weird way because we've already seen it, but like knowing how the trilogy pans out, I don't think this movie works now. Like knowing how you
Mm.
thought it was going to play out. Now it could have worked, but yeah, it's a. I feel so.
It's
We're not usually this negative.
I know, but
About.
it's a real mess. It's a
I
real
think we're just
mess. And we
disappointed.
know that there's more in store.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's like it's a real mess. I have to say, like, there's a lot going on, and a lot of choices. You're just like, why is this happening like this? It's like so much of the action is just feels nonsensical. Just gobbledygook. Like you're just watching CGI
Well, like
moving
you
and
just like you
so
talk with
fast. And,
with the ogres, the mountain troll or the trolls. Sorry, the
oh yeah,
trolls.
yep.
Like that fight was just it was cool. Like the digital effects, I'll give it this. Like I know we talk about like our favorite effects, like and stuff like that, but like I think the movie visually holds up for the most part as far as like CGI for the time that it is. Like I don't think it's like horrific.
No,
It
it's
works really
weird
well.
though. We both kind of
It is
commented
weird, but
it
like
has a cartoonish quality to it that,
sure, but like
but that's consistent throughout. So it seems like it was a choice.
yeah, like
Uh,
I don't.
but
I
yeah,
think
the technology is there for really cool shots and really cool
yeah. So
creatures.
like the troll fight, like visually, like it all kind of makes sense. Like it looked nice. It looked like it was like an actual thing. I kind of felt like the trolls were there. Like it didn't look like it was jarringly
Yeah.
odd. We watched some bad movies recently, so like,
Oh yeah.
but but yeah, it just kind of kept going and
Mhm.
going and going, and like
And
I don't.
nothing is happening either. Nobody is getting hurt. Nobody is incapacitated.
Yeah,
Everybody, like, when all the dwarves pop out of the woods to fight the trolls, it is as if you're just watching a group of background extras.
yeah,
Like in the battle, like in Braveheart or something, and you see like just people like play fighting, and it's
hmm
in CGI.
hmm
So you're like, what you could do anything in CGI, and you just chose this because then at the end the trolls just like pick them up and are like, okay, fight's over. And it's like, okay. At the same time, they were like cutting and slashing them, knocking their teeth out, like really doing damage to these trolls. And then,
Well, they are
yeah,
dwarves, I guess. They couldn't really get to vital
either the
organs.
trolls are strong and they grab them and tie them up right away, or they're not. And the dwarves have a fighting chance and defeat them because they're all like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just a stupid choice to have
Trying to
like,
remember how they
let's
get
have a
caught in
fight
the
scene here.
how they have they just get caught in the book, right? There's not really a fight or anything. They just get
There
caught.
is no, yeah, they get caught, and what happens is Bilbo like just uses his brains,
Yeah.
and and Gandalf never comes. Gandalf comes later.
Yeah, I know that bugs me. That
It
whole thing
does.
bugged me.
And what it bugs me the most is that this is coming from the people that supposedly are trying to uphold all the, material of the books very seriously and take it, and something so crucial to Bilbo's progress in this story is him outsmarting the trolls,
Yeah.
and then getting like Gandalf saying like, "Listen, none of you did that. He figured this out." Giving him the credit that he deserved. It's a big
Yeah,
moment
it's
for
like
him,
it's almost
and
like
it's
the
stupid.
executives like wanted all these like marquee actors, and they had to fit
You
away.
shall not
Yeah,
pass.
they had to like
And
reference the original trilogy and like force them in places they shouldn't be, and it belittles what Bilbo like is trying to become. You
and
know.
literally they force in Legolas in the next movie.
Yep.
Literally forcing in a character from the original to
Yep.
just take over the story.
It's gonna be a.
It's bad enough that we have I'm going to talk about the next movie. It's bad enough that we have to learn about all these dwarves and their backstories and their motivations and deepest desires. Now I have to like then we have to add Legolas and his love affair in the next one
We'll
with
get
this
there.
woman who clearly does not like him. Like, but it's like they just keep adding story. It's like J.J. Abrams filmmaking. It's just like, here's another thing. Here's another thing. Don't think too hard. Here's another thing. Here's another thing. it works for like really fun, visual, heavy movies. Not supposed to be for The Hobbit,
Mm.
but anyway.
Is there something you
I was
like
going to
about
ask
the
you
movie,
about some
Paul?
cinematography
Okay.
because there are a lot of cool shots in this.
Oh yeah,
You
my
still have to
I
give Peter Jackson like filmmaker credit, like in for capturing some really cool images, and we can talk about some positive aspects of the characters, like the scene with Bilbo and Gollum. What
sure.
else would you like to?
Well, cinematography, like I think even when I first saw the film, and I think it holds true because I feel like the whole Goblin King area,
Mhm.
like that whole
Yes,
like them
Goblin
running
King.
when they're running out, like I know it's CGI, like you can kind of tell, but like I love even like Lord of the Rings. I love the whole like camera on like a track, like flying through a cavern and like
Mm.
doing shots. Like I love that in Lord of the Rings. Like that will always get me. It's like ooh, like let's like run, let's fly over their heads and like follow them from like above. It's almost like you're watching a video
Ah,
game. It's
oh
like
yeah, that's cool. And
you
it
know,
like skips to the cinematic.
sure.
We talked about
We were talking about like the video game
things
of the
in that
of the
scene
movie.
in the Goblin King because there was so much like blah 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 blah. Like, oh, we can't skip the cutscene. Like, let's
Yeah.
just get to the fighting.
But like visually, like the cinematography of that shot is really cool. When they're just like running through the
Mhm.
bridges and like knocking all the goblins off and stuff. Like I remember seeing that in theaters.
Cool.
It looked really cool in theaters.
Yeah,
Like we watched the film on my little monitor right here, and it's like it doesn't have the same kind of vibe, but still like
mm.
it was really really cool. Like I like
Not as
that.
easy to watch. Not as easy to get enjoyment from it when it's on the little screen, huh? No,
You
no,
that
you
you
see it a little too plainly when it's on the little
see.
screen. You're like, oh, what's going on? Like, why does he have a battering ram and knocking over, 20 orcs at once, 20 goblins back and
I was
forth,
talking about the camera work, not what they were doing in it. Just the camera work.
and then the rolling boulder in front of them they were running behind. I do like that. I do like when Gandalf shows up. Like that's a cool part when it's just like it gets all dark and then his light shines and he's like, "Run, you fools!" and like
Hmm.
fights the Goblin King, and then they literally just like he's like, "Run!" I like seeing old Gandalf like that, like the still getting into adventures Gandalf. Ian
Hmm.
McKellen is like able
Well,
to like
he's such a good like what do we gonna call it? I wouldn't say goofy, but like mischievous, I guess, or like just like
yeah, a
not
little
like
aloof, a
not so
little
uppity. You know,
yeah,
he's like when he gives the when he becomes Gandalf the White,
doesn't
he's a
take
little
himself too
uppity.
seriously.
Yeah, like I like Gandalf like that. It's or Ian McKellen like that. It's good stuff. Like I remember him in the Shadow. Ian McKellen. Remember his role in the Shadow.
Oh god, yeah.
Margot.
Margot Lane. He was something Lane. He's the doctor, right?
Yeah,
He
he was
was her
with.
dad.
I don't remember his name, but something Lane. But
Hancock Lane. Uh watch The Shadow, people. Go back to The
and
Shadow.
watch
It's
our
a
episode. It's good.
honestly a better movie.
It's more. I would watch it again. That's for sure.
I just remembered Alec Baldwin like moving into the shadows to talk. He's like, "You will never talk about the shadow again," using his mind power. All right. Okay.
Any other favorite things you want to talk about? Is that it? We're done.
Let's see.
What's your favorite character, Paul? Like you got to pick. What's your favorite
Well,
character?
I was gonna ask about characters. I loved seeing Gollum, like younger Gollum, like more the balance between the playful, hasn't seen another person in so long and actually is enjoying interacting with Bilbo, and then that's the Smeagol side, and then the real side.
Hmm.
It was a great scene, and
I
clearly
think
they
they
put
handled
a
it really
lot of
good.
work
They
into
handled it.
it,
They
and
handled that well.
yeah,
Really good.
probably the best scene of the movie if
Sure.
you're
No, I
really
get.
asking.
Except for the one part where we like made fun of it when he gets the ring on. He like does this little like. It's so weird.
It is. It's like he said, like somebody said, do a parody of what
It's like
Frodo does in Lord of the Rings. Yeah, we have the moment where the ring is falling and it's about to fall onto his finger, and just like in you get that like ring
yep.
through the camera, and it kind of like, oh, floats on Frodo's finger and then falls on. And in this one, it is so CGI. It just like touches Martin Freeman's fingers, and they just go, and then plump,
think
and like
it's
that.
like playing the like air piano, like before it puts on. Like
Yes, you said air piano. It is like piano solo in the air. But yeah, just weird
so
choices for things.
Golem, your favorite character? You think?
Column,
Golem.
column. Um, guess so. Like I
There
want to
really
like
isn't a lot of
Thorin.
character.
I
There wasn't.
want they like they push all this stuff. They give you this background of Thorin. You see him as like a sympathetic character. And this first movie is supposed to be excuse me, him being a real like a real dick and gruff and
Yep.
not liking Bilbo or really anybody. And then by the end of this part of the story, he's supposed to like see Bilbo in a different light and see his value. In the in the books, to be
Taking
fair
a long
though, the
time.
dwarves always are kind of like suspicious of Bilbo and like, oh, thank you, you did that. But Bilbo in the end kind of feels like slighted by them.
Sure.
Like they didn't um appreciate his work and what he did for him. In the end, they do like make it up to him,
Yep.
but like that's the way they act towards him for most of the movie, and that's how, or most of
Because
the
that's how
book.
dwarves act. That's
Yeah,
just.
they're very private. It's like this guy's an outsider. Like
Yeah.
they're not like, oh, welcome, come on. Like these are all like people who know each other for the most part,
Hmm.
and this is a total outsider.
Yep.
Gandalf is an outsider already, and they barely trust him.
But he has the key in the map. So like that's right.
And even Thorin doesn't trust him. Like
Yeah.
he's like, and you're holding on to these things. So
I like Balin. I think they handled Balin really well.
he's my favorite of the
Yeah,
dwarves.
yeah.
If
Like
I had to pick a favorite
I
dwarf,
really think they
I'd
handled
say it was
his character,
Balin.
his version, his like
And
the
I
way he tells the
and I like his
story. Yeah,
oh, yeah, yeah.
his storytelling and like like his just the way he was acted, the way his look is. Right, he looks like like your elder dwarf that just knows a lot. You trust what he has to say, and I would love to say Bilbo. I don't think. Well, Martin Freeman, what's his name? What's the actor's name?
Yeah,
Martin.
Martin Freeman.
Yeah, I don't think he did bad as a Bilbo. Like I see him as a Bilbo. Like he's fine.
Mhm.
I just don't think they put him in. They didn't give him the right way to be a good Bilbo. I don't know. They just didn't provide
Yeah,
him
this
the right.
isn't
The
the
writing
movie
did
for
wasn't
that
there.
Bilbo. Yeah,
Yeah,
that Bilbo that like that character is a great version of him. I would like to see that. And it does give Bilbo a little bit more heart. Like he does it makes him more human because he has this like revelation, as you're saying by the end, like that, these guys don't have a home. So if I'm gonna help them,
yeah,
you know. But if it's a children's book, which is how it's written, Bilbo's just going because he's on this adventure. He's not really thinking too much about like the gravity of the situation. Not really until the end.
yeah. He just
Um,
wants to have some fun because he just like, oh, I'm just gonna live out the
he wants to
adventures that I wanted
survive.
to do as a kid.
Yeah,
Yeah, like he
he
just.
wants to survive and get back home.
Yep.
That's all
But
he wants. Get back to the Shire. But so when you were talking about Balin, you just reminded me when he gives that backstory about Thorin, and we get that flashback to their fight outside
mhm.
of the mines of Moria. I always think like that should have been the first flashback of the movie,
Yeah,
right there.
I agree. We talked about that.
You start the movie the way that the Hobbit starts, and you build it. The dwarves just come in, and you meet them. Great, all that. You can have all that fun stuff too that they do. I do like that they sing songs. I have to say that. I was glad that they preserved some of the songs, at least for a short period of time.
Hmm.
But they really disregard any of that as the movies progress. But I don't know, man.
I have a question for
I
you.
feel like I'm talking blue in the face here.
What is
None of it good.
what is your thoughts on the inclusion of the Defiler for the film of
I
that they're doing? Did you like his presence, like him being chased? Like we didn't.
mean,
I,
they do encounter like do they I forget in the books do they encounter like the wargs and orcs? like
They,
out in
they
the
have a
open.
they have an orc thing. I think I don't remember honestly. I'll have to double check that. We'll have to come back to that then.
I mean, I know that if it was there, it wasn't like a huge part. Like it was just like them
No,
running into some like here's another adventure in peril,
but like
along the way.
they obviously created like a bad guy for the movie, like a protagonist, because we don't really have one
So yeah,
until later on. The Goblin King would have, been, I guess, been the protagonist in a way. Like he's sort
but
of
that's
like
that's why if you're gonna make this movie 3 movies, then you have to add a through line like that. Somebody to keep your interest. Somebody that's always kind of like on the character's mind. All right? Because otherwise, if you did this in 1 movie, then you don't need to worry about this at all. This is
yeah,
not a
it's true.
problem. You have your
Well,
end point.
yeah.
You know what the Battle of 5 Armies is what you're building
Well,
to.
that's why I
And
think
however
two
you
two
build to it.
movies would have been better because then your protagonist is Smog, and then you get introduced to Smog towards the end
Yep.
of this film, and then
Antagonist. Yes.
which
So
that bleeds into you know the whatever the second movie is like the desolation of Smog and the destruction of Smog. Like he destroys the town, and then Bilbo does his thing in the middle of the movie, and then at the end you have the Battle of the Five Armies. So it's like I always thought that like it would be good just to have a journey of getting to Smog, where Smog is at the end of the first movie, then you bleed into the second. Like that's why I think 3 movies would have been 2 movies. You could have done 2, I think, but like I don't know. It just we're gonna just keep repeating that.
we kind of thought we knew as the movie was going that we weren't going to see Smog
Well, yeah,
in the
I knew
first
that
movie.
when you first watched it. I mean, they do. They show you what briefly at the end, and you get excited.
Yeah.
Yay, it's Smog.
So we knew that the second movie was going to be like Smog's movie.
Hmm.
And honestly, we could have just gotten right to Smog. Could
Yeah,
have gotten we like really the journey to
like
Erebor.
I think it didn't help too. Like the end of the first movie, it's like when they're like standing with when the eagles just drop them off on a rock, and I'm just like,
Oh,
how are they gonna get down?
they showed you at the very end of that shot. They showed
Stair.
you a little staircase on the side, so you're like, oh, okay.
But like
But how terrible! Like you're in that moment watching the ending of the movie, and all you're like, oh, thank goodness they put stairs there, or I would have been wondering.
I mean, how would you even notice
You
them?
know,
They're so
how do you?
quick.
What a way to take you out of the movie at the very end. Like we're
But
just gonna
really,
drop you here
what I was thinking though, it's
because they
like
refuse to let the animals talk too. They make all
so
this
mad
lore
about that.
accuracy. We're gonna be whimsical here, but not here. Let the eagles talk already. They have something to say. And Rings of Power is doing it too. They don't let the Eagles talk. Just let them talk.
They're this anti-eagle, I guess. I don't know.
I don't get it. And I really thought
But
Rings of
there's
Power
no
was
other
going to be
animals.
different.
There's no other animals that talk in this series. I don't think there is, except for like if you consider an orc an animal.
Swan, the Hound could talk. Some of the wolves could talk, like the evil wolves could talk.
Like
Some of
in
them.
the movies, I haven't seen an animal talk. Is what I'm saying.
No, no.
Like
Not even what was his name? Chesterfield? What Radagast's pet hedgehog there? What did he call him? Oh no, Sebastian.
Radicat.
Sebastian. No.
But what I was gonna say is like at the end, it's like
He
you do
wasn't your favorite character?
no, like not at all.
Tell me about your thoughts on
Wait, hold on. Let me
Radagast.
get my. I didn't even got to my
No, no, no,
point
no.
yet.
I
No,
wasn't gonna let you go.
they drop him
Oh,
on the rock, right? And it's like
yes.
you're
On the
such an
big
ass.
rock.
You're such a jerk. But like, and then you see that
Yep.
they have to go like forever away. Like the mountain's there, but like it's like they didn't get anywhere. Like they got like
He's like, but you see, if you let them talk, they would have explained it. It's like this is the border of our country. We will not go beyond here. This is where our territory ends.
stop it
But
with your
instead,
eagle
you got
talking
people going
propaganda.
like, "What the hell, Eagles?" Like, just take them like at least a few more miles. They gotta walk.
You gotta go a mile
How
down to
about
the
some
rock.
flatlands? Can you drop us on some flatlands? How about some hay bales? Oh yeah, yeah. It's like they don't. The people making the. I, it's really, it would be, look at us in this lofty position to look back on this and say, like, you didn't really know what you were doing. It's not that. These people are obviously capable filmmakers. They did it before. They created a movie that swept the Academy Awards, you know?
Yep.
It's just that, and I think when we watch the second one, we should watch some of the behind the scenes stuff because I was saying about Peter Jackson goes through a very serious health scare during the filming of these three movies that like shuts everything down. And then stuff was being changed as they were filming it. So it seems like such a stressful and crazy way to make three movies.
But you did notice
But
that
this movie, I feel like you didn't know, but this movie is like the one that seemed to be like the most coherent, you know?
yes, there was a beginning, middle, and end. I mean, it was debatable of how it was executed, but like there was a film there. They, it's like they kind of beat the bad guy, and they got to see their end where they're trying to go. They got to see it. Like
It's way over there. It's way the hell over there.
Yeah, but
they're so happy when they see it too.
Like,
if you were Bilbo, you'd be like, "The fuck?
We got little legs, dude. That's a long way for them."
He's like, "Those stairs. I have to climb down each of those stairs. I can't just take them."
Are they dwarven stairs, or they're human?
They're stairs for Beorn. That's who I was thinking of. Who we're gonna meet in the. They're like, this. The gap is like this big. Bilbo's gonna like get down on his stomach each time to get down. Takes him 3 days to get down the staircase. They lose.
That's like a whole movie in itself. Just like
the staircase coming this summer. I'm telling you, they lose 2 dwarves along the way.
You never know. There's always peril. We have to talk about that.
There's more there's spiders coming out of the stairs.
But what's the other thing I noticed in this movie? Because it's like our normal format is just out the window. It's just like whatever. But like the peril that they ran into, it's like they're constantly falling, but it's okay because there's always something to grab.
There's always something to grab onto at the last minute. And then, but that thing will give out and they will fall. But don't worry, because there will be something else that they can grab onto. But be careful, because that will break. And then they'll have to grab onto something else. Thankfully, that's right there. But that too is also broken. So, but we did notice the very end, right? It was like Thorin, when they're on the tree, they're waiting for the eagles to rescue them, right? The tree is like falling, the wolves and the orcs are like back behind the fire, but it's starting to die down and they're getting ready to like charge at the dwarves. And Thorin sees this and decides he's going to go and face Azog.
Oh yeah, that's right.
For some reason, on his own, a dwarf against an orc on wolfback. Okay. So I'm giving Thorin the benefit of the doubt because I'm thinking maybe he's trying to just buy them time or he's trying to sacrifice himself and try to fight him. All right? That's the best case scenario. Because otherwise, to us, it's like, why is he doing this? Why did he leave the tree? Like, anyway. He goes. Why don't you please explain how this fight progresses? Because they charge at each other.
He just gets knocked the fuck out.
He's got a big long sword. He just eats shit. Immediately, pow!
Like
hits the ground.
The more I think about it, though, it's like Thorin gets his ass just like handed to him. He doesn't even do anything. Like he just gets
no damage. Not even like, ooh, he scratched out the eye of the wolf, or ooh, he cut a little bit of, nothing.
So
not even a graze.
Which makes me wonder, how the hell did Bilbo do what he did?
Bilbo manages to sneak up on like the lieutenant of this orc general and knock him over. Like football tackle him over. Bilbo Baggins. Oh my gosh. Justin, it is wild to even think that actually
Thorin,
happened, and people are
Thorin,
like,
who
"You
is
know what? Good.
Thorin,
This is the Hobbit."
the most battle-hardened person of the entire group, just get bopped
Just
in the head.
it is embarrassing how quickly and easily they just kind of bat him aside like, "You go down now."
We need you to just lay there so Bilbo could do his thing. Just.
And it doesn't help that this movie is, I swear to God, it's slower than Braveheart
Oh
because
my
there's so
god.
much like, I'm gonna take out my sword, and you hear Diddles, Mapotos. You get the background chanting of the Nazgul like
Yep.
theme, and he takes out the sword, and he's like pointing it at him, and he starts walking, and then it's a run, and he's charging, and just immediately to eat shit. It's just embarrassing. But
I remember
I'm
like
losing my
there's a
voice
point
here.
where just like wow we're like 50 minutes in and the journey just started. Like it was like
Really? We haven't even got on the door. It's like, here, they're walking now. They're
oh
on the ponies. It's officially 45 minutes into the movie. It's like 3 pages
yeah I
into the
don't
book.
yeah you're right I don't have much exciting things to talk about. I mean like I thought the introduction of the Doors was fine. Like the singing you said was good. Like I don't like beyond
Not
that
for
though.
everybody.
Like Golem was great. Like but I don't know. Can't think of anything else. I don't even know why they went to Rivendell. Like what was the purpose of going to Rivendell?
Oh, well, they needed to go for the map to read the moon
Oh,
runes
that's
to
right. I forgot.
know.
That was such a quick
Like,
part.
that is the whole point. But Thorin isn't so like, "Yeah, stinking elves." Like, he's so racist in this, you know? Like, I don't know how else to put it. Like, he's a virulent anti-elvite. But he's got, and they say it's because he holds this grudge because they never helped him. This one weird, I will say, strange group of elves, the woodland elves, did not help them. So, like, he judges all elves this way. But then at the same time, he's very concerned. Like, oh, do you think like just because we're dwarves, we don't understand? And it's
What?
like, oh, you're the racist one. We're not making racist judgments. You are.
That was funny. That's like he's like all of a sudden Elrond's looking at him. They're having a conversation, and it's all of a sudden he just says random things in Elvish to them, and it's like they're like, "Why are you insulting us?" Like,
Yeah, that's the first thing. That's Gimli's dad, who's like, "You offer us insult," and he's like, "No, he's offering you food."
but
And it's like,
and speaking of
oh,
Rivendell, before we go, like Galadriel in this whole thing is hilarious with her twist turn thing.
I love it. I love that scene so much because she starts with her back to Gandalf, like framed in this archway, perfect with the sunset over the sea, and like she just like turns and it's like, "Don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move, hold it in, fit tight," just like twisting so tightly, and then that's how, like, and then she Batman's
Yeah, she just
Gandalf, right?
disappears. Like, how did that? We don't even know how it happened. It's like her hands were there and then they're gone. Like it's like
It's like, I know she has powers, and we're learning about them from Rings of Power, like heightened awareness, some precognition here and there. But, you know,
and then get
did she use like a smoke bomb and disappear? Like,
Gandalf was just being silly in the meeting. It's like I'm telling you, this thing is over here, and like this crazy thing, and it's like, why don't you believe me? Why don't you believe me? And the guy is just show him the thing. Just show him the thing. Like, why aren't you showing us
yeah,
the thing? Like
this internal like a conversation between him and Galadriel. I
ah,
mean, it's useful, but like Saruman is talking, and it's funny if you try to just like listen to what he's saying. He's like, blah 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 blah. Like, this Gandalf is always looking for things, and then right before Gandalf says something or pulls out the dagger, the Nazgul dagger, he Saruman says out loud, like, "It's like I'm not even. It's like he's not even listening to me." And Gandalf just like whips out a sword, like.
I love how Saruman just like bashes Radagast. Like,
Well, what did you think of Radagast? Of the wizards you know of,
is he
what
the
did
only
you?
other in the Peter Jackson version? Is he the only other one we get? Yeah, right. So
Uh,
sad. So sad.
you don't even get Tom Bombadil. You got to wait for Rings of Power for
I
that
know,
one.
I know, I know he shows up,
Yeah,
but man, that's so hard. It's so disappointing. Freaking
dude,
Radagast.
dude, it's embarrassing to watch
Like, I
Radagast.
mean,
I
I would
feel
be
bad
fine. I would be
for
fine with like guy in the woods wizard like likes animals, but like the bird shit just that was that. I think that
you
ruined it.
know you want to make him eccentric, like that's fine. Yeah, like the bird nest in his hair and the dreadlocks and the bird shit. The
The
rabbits
bunny,
that pull him on a sled, his little hedgehog Sebastian. I mean, I get
you know, I
there's a way to do that to make it not so ridiculous. But I don't know, maybe like that's Peter Jackson's thing too. Like part of
maybe that was the
his
original cut.
filmmaking
Like the
is like
original cut of the movie was just like we're just gonna put Radagast and not have Gandalf at all. And the executives saw it. They're like, we got to throw Gandalf in there way more.
they're like,
Like,
get Ian McKellen on the phone right now. Get Legolas. Get everybody. Hugo Weaving, please.
we have to distract everyone from Radagast.
These are Ruskamill rabbits.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways,
What the fuck
well,
is
we committed.
Baskerville?
We committed to
Where
a
is that?
trilogy. We committed to this trilogy. Oh, last thing I'll say is there's a lot of like references to English sports in this. Like, like this random
Oh my gosh, yes. You get that line about golf, about his
croquet sets.
yeah. Again, another oh yes. Oh, and he's good at conkers, whatever that is.
Conkers.
Yep.
Anyways, all right. Well, if you haven't,
Justin, would you recommend this movie to a friend or family member?
well, that's such a hard thing to say.
The first time it's actually stumped you. Would I recommend this
I
movie?
don't know.
Uh,
Okay. If you've never seen it before and you liked Lord of the Rings, sure, yes,
see it to believe it.
see it.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I didn't hate it my first time I saw it. Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like,
Watch it on a big screen. Don't watch it on your computer.
we have just revisiting it is. I wouldn't recommend watching it again. That's for sure. But we're doing it. We got two
It
more to
is.
go.
Capital R
It
rough.
supposedly gets worse.
I gotta just bring up one more complaint of yours, actually.
Oh, okay.
I just need to make sure that all of our grievances have aired
It's
properly.
like a therapy
Your
session for the
problem with
Hobbit.
the age of the youngest dwarves, with
Oh
Feely
my
and Truly
god! Yes,
just basically being
hobbits.
hobbits,
Yeah, they're just hobbits.
just taller hobbits.
Yeah,
Like they do not express.
and
They do not
they
seem
don't
like
act like
dwarves
dwarves.
at all.
Well, a lot of the dwarves they don't act like dwarves. Like a lot of them act the way they talk. They act like Aragon sometimes. Like the way they like are about to fight somebody. Like none of them really, except for like the bald dwarf. He's like a dwarf-like person. Balin looks like a dwarf. Like he's a knowledgeable dwarf. You know,
I like the one with the little braids that kind of the gray braids that frame his head like in a circle and come down here into like a little chin beard. So cute.
but then he got the freaking
I
back.
like the youngest one with his little like page boy haircut and he's bald on top like a monk and he said he's got a slingshot and he said he's gonna stick something up the dragon's Jackson. Yes. Who
Did
was
you?
your favorite dwarf?
I like the guy with the
Such a
hat,
heartthrob.
with the flying hat, like the wings on his hat. Like he had the little. He had
Oh,
the.
yes. Why do those stick out so much? Is that from sweat? Like, why?
With
And he
little
has like
function.
braids. He had like beautiful
Yeah.
braids too, like little pigtail braids.
Yeah, I don't know any of their names. It's like they try to make them distinct, but you don't know who they are. Like you got
And I can't, I couldn't. Oh, I think that guy, because he's related to Bomber, he might be Biffer or Bofer. That guy with the braids and
Sure. Yeah,
his
maybe.
cute little
You got
uh
the one
hat.
the fat dwarf that breaks the bench with a sausage. Sure, you got him
Yep.
too. Yeah, but anyways, yeah, sure. But yeah, those two that were really young, they definitely weren't dwarfs. I refuse to believe it.
I also like they didn't like salad, that they were vegetarians, or that they didn't understand that.
They don't
You know,
eat
that was one of my
vegetables.
favorite scenes, in The Hobbit when they're eating dinner.
Yep.
Oh,
Anyways,
this
oh,
movie blows.
that was your favorite
Movie
moment. That was your favorite
blows.
moment eating dinner.
No, I just can't wait for what we're gonna do when we get to. We're
Well,
gonna,
if you don't want to watch The Hobbit, just take this as the actual experience right here, and then just go watch Lord of the Rings again, and then watch
yeah.
our podcast about it. That's what you
Don't
should do.
don't let your experience of Lord of the Rings be tarnished by this.
And if
You
you
don't need
like The
this.
Hobbit,
There's nothing here that you need.
if you like The Hobbit, please put a comment in our YouTube thing because I really want to know. Give us a 5-page essay. Like a five
No,
page essay.
no. In one sentence, please explain why this movie is good. If you can do that, we will read it on the air. And say we will judge it on its merits. But if you
I'll
can tell
laminate it. I'll put it on my wall. If you do,
us, oh, like our first dollar bill from like our
yeah.
store, like you'll take it. Yes, please comment. Tell us if you liked.
Or don't like,
If you actually like The Hobbit, why?
please. We want to know.
All
But
right, Justin. Well, we are in it. We're in it to win it here at this point. So I'm excited that we're just going to watch these again because at least we can laugh our way through some scenes,
sure.
and we learned that we could do other things like chores around the house while we were
Well, I
watching.
didn't. You might have done that. I was dedicated. I was focused.
Oh, I think I might have been working out while we were doing that a little bit. Was doing something. Uh, anyways, we're in it to win it here. Next time we take on the desolation of smog. But until then, let's sign off. I'm Paul. This has been Playing Favorites.
I'm Justin, son of Brian Benoit, head chef.
Long may you, chef. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
By the way, did you like my Batman Armory gift? Like I was like, I'm ready.
Yeah,
Ready to
I
go.
showed it to Kristen. She was like, "What was that at the end? His pecs?" I'm like, "No, that's his butt." I'm like, it's directed by Joel Schumacher, the most flaming man ever to exist.
Like I was just thinking of like I was just search like Batman Armory, and that's all I. And I'm like, I was kind of hoping I would find. I was looking for the Val Kilmer nipple one, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I found the butt one, so I was like, oh, let's just go with that.
You should when you're in the mood, look for George Clooney talking about Joel Schumacher,
Okay.
and hearing about him being directed by Joel Schumacher as Batman is hilarious because he's so flaming gay. Like in real life, he can't help it. He's just like, so you're Batman. You're Batman, and you're all of that. You're feeling all those feelings as Batman, and then you come over here and you start alluring her like you're going to dance. Like this is George Clooney doing a Joel Schumacher impression. It is.
How do you
Oh
go
my
from
god, it is
Tim
hilarious.
Burton to Joe Schumacher? I don't
He's
understand.
whimsical. Joel Schumacher, I will give him credit. Like he is a whimsical director. I can see why, especially for the Riddler in the third movie. And I gotta say, I love that movie when it came out. It
Yeah,
was my favorite by far. I don't know how watchable it is now, but I bet
probably
we could watch it
nostalgic.
and be like, this is still entertaining. It's
I
cringy,
yeah, but
but
anyways,
it's not slow.
that's another movie we can watch. Let's do the Batman
You
movies.
know
Let's
what? I
go.
would I would give that one like a redemption tour. The Batman and Robin's awful, but
Yeah,
Batman Forever, I feel like Val Kilmer, like the movie's not about Batman at all.
no.
It's all about Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey.
I'm gonna put
Great.
this as our outro at the
And
end.
Robin.
We're
And
talking about Batman before we talk about the Hobbit for some reason.
anything to not talk about the Hobbit.